Right, hello. Hopefully this all works all right. So, as I was saying on the stream yesterday, I've got my new phone now. Because annoyingly, the phone I bought not very long ago, the Doogie one, as good as the phone actually is, the little USB-C port at the bottom got damaged. I don't know if you can see that. So it's going to need to have the port basically replaced on it. So at the moment, it's now fully drained of its battery, and it physically won't charge unless you are very, very precise plugging a USB-C cable in. So because I don't have anything on it that, thankfully isn't already backed up on other phones. All right, I don't know sodium chloride. What I'm just going to do is get this stream up on my PC screen as well, just so I can read the comments easier, because otherwise it's really hard on the little small screens. I know in theory I can make the font bigger in the settings, but then the font's too big for everything else, whereas, so what I'll do is if I open this up on here, let's put that on there, pause that, so the thing, and then if I do pop out chat, all right, Loki Sean and Soviet Gaming, if I do pop out chat, I can probably get the chat window more on the left side of the screen, so it's closer to where this is anyway. Yeah, German mannequins behind me. It's the MM1 on the mannequin. It's quite brown though, just because of UV damage over the years, where it started off grey and now it's pretty brown, but that's what you get with old Soviet masks. But yeah, that was just because it was, and that wasn't like being exposed to sunlight, non-stop. It was just being in a room where there was sunlight. So it's obviously one where if it wasn't kept in a satchel, the MM1 browns quite easily. But you do see some really brown Soviet masks like Shum 41, Shum 62s, the GP5. It does seem like Soviet, like grey, sort of white-coloured masks, brown very, very quickly. Cheers, yeah, I've had that for ages. It just never used to be in this room. And because the room over there where, so the room through there, where the curtains are, because of the weird way this house is built, because the roof needs replacing on that room now, I've had to physically, we're literally moving everything out of that room, so it's completely empty. Right, where are you looking when you said GSR or M50? There is a Avon C50 here. That's the C50, and I've got a GSR and an FRR in this room somewhere. Yeah, that's the proper FRR, because you can see from its different kind of thing on it. But yeah, I've got both of those in this room. Right, Rich? But yeah, anyway, so go back to the chat. So yeah, like I said, so annoyingly that was a sort of a load of money I didn't want to have to spend again. But like I said, I'm hoping that my previous phone, if I get somebody I trust to repair it, because like I said, that's the problem with mobile phones, is I wouldn't want to just randomly have a random shop repair it, because I bet they clone your data as they do it. So yeah, but in the Black Friday sort of deals coming up on Amazon, this phone had about £100 off its RRP. And already this phone seems to have a much better USB-C port at the bottom, and it also has wireless charging. And I've bought, like I said, the magnetic charge cables for it, so I can put as least amount of strain on the USB port as possible. I've already got a corn pop who's a bad dude, being a cunt, so goodbye. Oh, we've got 41 people on though already. So yeah, again, it's a typical thing that if it's a vertical stream, for whatever reason, YouTube seems to actually and I know Remembrance Sunday and the 11th have been, but I was leaving that on for the rest of this week, the Poppy. Soviet Gaming. I wish Red Dead Online, I was watching a video about that earlier, I wish Red Dead Online was still updated by Rockstar, because I really like Red Dead Online, but it's a shame. Yeah, it's a Strela 2, if you can see the back of the tube, but I can't pick it up because that would break the rules of YouTube live streaming. But yeah, that's a Strela 2, the deactivated Soviet manpad. I've got a video on it, but yeah, it's basically... Yeah, that's what I'm planning on doing, playing, to just keep it on to the end of the week, and then I'll take it off. But yeah, I ended up, although we bought some of the paper ones, from a Poppy seller, I did just end up from the Royal British Legion website buying both one of the metal ones with the pin, just because it's a lot, it's not going to fall apart as easily, and you can put on clothes more easily. And I also bought the little reflector type one, which is quite good. I've just put that on my keyring, and I'm just going to keep that on my keyring because that actually helps you see your keyring in the dark as well as like a little tritium vial I've got on my keyring. So, oh, plastic-free ones. The one I had still had the plastic little back bit. I think they do regular ones and plastic-free ones, don't they? Like the completely paper ones and the ones that have plastic and the paper. But yeah, like I said, for the most part now, like I said, I'd rather just give a donation and just keep a pin, you know, just because like these ones are, like I said, just a lot more solid. And again, we've still got some weirdos coming on this stream, so if there's any mods on, just make sure you're, you know, keeping a check on the comments. Okay, I'm pretty sure the ones I got had plastic stems. Maybe they were old ones they were using up. I don't know. I didn't look that closely, but I know you can get like weird things that feel like plastic that aren't plastic, you know, with various companies that do stuff. Because I know at work we have like the recyclable kind of cups and that you'd think they're like plastic, you know, like the standard sort of foam type cups for like coffee cups, but I know they can actually be compostable. You know, they're like one of those. No, I'm not going to give you a random gas mask, and I'd also have to pay postage on it, wouldn't I? Even if I was to donate a gas mask to a random person online who I have no idea who you are. So no, I'm not going to give a random person a gas mask. Yeah, cheers, Rich. Like people saying, don't forget to like the stream just because of the fact that, yeah, maybe YouTube will notify people when I'm on and stuff like that if you like the stream and all that. But a PMG is a just dirt cheap mask anyway. If you're going to beg somebody for a mask, you ought to beg them for a better mask than a PMG. You can normally get PMGs for about £5 to £10 still. Yeah, I've heard there's I've heard there's a lot of yeah, people that are completely against it. There's a weird white poppy thing now, isn't there? Cool. Yeah, you've got an MF11 coming. Is that the FMJ05, the MF11? I can never remember like all the various different names they have. But yeah, what was I going to say? That yeah, there's the weird white poppy thing now and all that shit, isn't there? Because all like the various people trying to co-opt what it's actually about, Remembrance Day and all that. So yeah, or again, people bringing fucking politics in what's meant to be, yeah, a day of remembrance. Yeah, but it's also because people say, oh, I'm wearing it because I hate what the British Empire stood for and all this. Yeah, it's an all right mask. I've got two. One of them is quite good. The other one has like cheaper straps that's not as good. But again, like I said, it's not a bad mask. It's perfectly adequate. You know, it's not a good mask. It's not a bad mask. Oh, it's good in terms of it would protect you and all that. It's just yeah, the Israeli 4A1 is a good gas mask if you can get the real ones. The proper Chinese masks, in the higher end Chinese masks, are good, but not the low end Chinese masks, if that makes sense. So, like with China, because they make so much shit, you can get some Chinese stuff that's genuinely really good, but there's also low end Chinese stuff that is basically worthless. You know, like where some of their masks just fall apart, you know, or like when I've done videos on some of the Chinese ones, like, you know, some of the cheaper ones come with filters that just don't work, you know, like they're false sense of security kind of thing, you know, or they're like when I had that pewter gas mask where the straps would literally fall off the mask without you doing anything because the straps were, you know, made from what was the straps? It was like they clipped on with some kind of like little tiny hook thing, a bit like how the French M51 works, but not anywhere as good as that. So basically the issue was as soon as you tighten the straps, the tension would pull it off of the mask because it was like a tiny little friction thing that held it on. Yeah, World War One ended 1918, so yeah, that's now 106 years ago, yeah. All right, Rajiv? No, I've sort of heard a bit about that, but I've not looked into it yet with the UFO stuff. I know they give them a new name now, but I just like you know, unknown flying object sort of thing, unidentified flying object, because the aerial phenomenon, whatever they call them, is such an annoying name. It's like, just call them UFOs. That's a good old term. Foo Fighters. Again, we've got another fucking weirdo coming on, so I'll get rid of again, mods. If you're on, make sure you're actually doing your job, please. Not to be a dick, but you know. So I've already been called a nonce by somebody. I've already been called transgender by somebody. What was the other one? Oh, British people have bad teeth was another one. Even though I don't think my teeth are that bad. Again, they won't win any prizes, but they're not rotting and they're not falling off out, and they're relatively straight. I've still got a full set of original teeth, saying that. Other than, yeah, because all of my adult teeth I've still got, as in, you know, like my milk teeth I obviously don't have, and I did have to have surgery to get 2 of my milk teeth out that didn't come out naturally. But yeah, I don't have any fillings, don't have any, you know, abscesses, anything like that. Yeah, Bradjiv, it's because we got 59 people on, because again, YouTube promotes vertical streams a lot more. Again, like I said, I'm gonna have to be quite that's the only problem when you get a lot of people on, is you will get a lot of people coming on just to try and insult you or start an argument. So again, like I said, I'll just be trying to keep the you know, I'll be trying to keep the chat on topic by just literally deleting all the shit that, you know. Don't know, Rich, but I know this week coming up, interestingly, and I am completely in support of it, a lot of the farmers are going on strike. You know, some of the more extreme ones might be blockading, like supermarkets and stuff like that. Just to go back, the Chinese knockoff S10, the FMJ08, yes, I have. That's pretty good. It's not as good as the actual S10, as you'd imagine, but it is much better than the Czech OM90, which is also an S10 copy. AliExpress hazmat suit. I don't know if I've actually seen that AliExpress hazmat suit. Let me have a quick look in. So yeah, bear with me a minute while I have a look at AliExpress. So do you just literally type hazmat suit into AliExpress? So there's some disposable ones, which isn't the kind of things I bother with, because the disposable ones I've got basically, you know, some UK equivalents of those, and the UK equivalent ones are, you know, or like US built equivalent ones. They're relatively cheap over here, so the Chinese ones aren't cheaper. There is a rubber neoprene one, but that's £100, which is quite a lot for just a modern rubber NBC suit, considering I've got like some of the modern British ones. Although that is like the current PLA style one, I think. So that kind of looks cool, but I wouldn't spend £100 on it. That's the sort of thing that when Hype's about, I'll see if I can buy it through him a lot cheaper. It's just like the overall feel of the rubber and everything. But yeah, there isn't a massive amount of difference between the FMJ08 and the actual S10. They're pretty similar. Like, you know, you could probably like them either way, but the FMJ08 is basically almost an identical S10 copy, just some of the rubbers and like fabrics are a bit different. There's not a ghost behind me. There's a mannequin behind me. Tell me a cheap gas mask for what, a one that's actually functional, or a gas mask that just looks cool, or what? Again, it completely depends what you mean by you know, completely depends what you mean by gas mask. Some random person says I farted, despite the fact he can't tell if somebody farts on the stream because you can't smell it, and you wouldn't have been able to hear it. And no, I didn't fart. But again, like I said, there's a lot of weirdos on today's stream, but that's probably because YouTube's actually shared it to you know, actually shared the stream for once. The gas masks that come with bongs barely even work, even if you're wanting to use them for inhaling weed. The bong masks are actually like completely shit build quality. What was yesterday's holiday? I have no idea. Nothing over here anyway. All right, how are you in India? I was going to try. Is that Sunep your name? Sorry, I can't. Again, the chat. The problem is the chat is just so small on here. Oh, actually, I'll tell you what. I'm just using the browser. I'm just going to control mouse wheel, and then I'll put it back to 100% zoom afterwards. Xmas budget mask. Well, if you go on AliExpress, there is quite a good, if I can link it, because again, the problem is putting a bloody link in from AliExpress because it makes the URL so long. I'll find that one I like that you can put 40mm filters on and like the 3M style filters, because they're actually quite good for a really cheap mask. So it's this one. So now let me try and shorten the URL to the point the URL works, but isn't like 1,000 characters long. There we go. Right, so I think, and I'm just going to do at the person who asked. There you go. That particular one is one I quite like because, like I said, it's a very, very basic mask. It's, you know, not a good military style one, but because it comes with blanking plugs for the 40mm bit and the 3M one, oh, not a Chinese one. After I link you to a thing, get an FMJ05 then, like we were saying about before. Hang on. Right, I'm going to link you to one of these. Right, no, now that's broken the URL because this one has an even longer URL. Right, there we go. There you go. That's not a Chinese 3M ripoff. That's a Chinese MF14. And again, that's cheap, which is what you asked for and actually works. Whether or not the filter you get with it is any good, I don't know. Oh, that's the one without the filter. You can buy it with the filter as well, but yeah. Again, it's quite hard for me to link people to stuff because, again, the problem is that unless I know where you are in the world, and again, I can only really see places that ship to the UK. Whereas if you're in another country, how would I know what would ship to your address without loads of taxes on and whatever else? Well, I can't tell you what at all can ship to Korea. Look on the Korean equivalent of eBay. Again, yeah, this is why it's a stupid thing asking me what random country I'm in will ship, you know, with whatever and, you know, whatever else. It's like, there's no way of me knowing that because I'm not at your end of the thing. Just have a look for yourself. Watch my videos, find a mask you like, see if you can get a hold of it. Now, it's all right, but I'm just sort of saying that's the issue whenever anybody asks me to find them stuff online like that. It will always be, oh, the postage is too expensive. Oh, there's taxes. Oh, I can't import that into my country. You know, oh, the seller doesn't ship overseas. It's always something like that. That's why I never bother with it. I can only really tell people in the UK what I can see on UK eBay for good prices. So, yeah, anyway. Good thing is this phone seems to have quite a good display, at least. The colours look all right. I'm just going to see how they actually look on the PC side, the colours. Yeah, it looks not too bad. Again, it's not as good as it appears on that screen. It's not awful. But yeah. What amazing thumbnail, it just being like that. Because you see, the thumbnails for these I could actually make interesting sometimes if I think to do in advance. I could put the mask on or whatever before the... You see, I could do that before I do a thumbnail, and then it would look a lot more interesting. It's just I generally don't think to do that before I start the streams off. So, you know, there you go. But, yep, so, anyway, as I was saying, oh yeah, there is an MF14 there. But saying about that, for the thing about the, speaking about the MF14, for the people that are on about the MF14, you can generally get them from quite a lot of sellers because they're very mass produced. So, and like I said, it's not a bad mask. It's certainly not my favourite mask, but for the fact that these don't, you know, particularly cost very much, they're not bad masks at all. So yeah, the MF14's all right. Nose cut's a bit big on it, you know, a bit skew with a nose cut. You can probably see that there. Oh, I know the mask you're thinking of. You're probably thinking of the IP5, aren't you? Like the IP4 or the IP5. They're not actually GP5s, but they are a similar like hood type mask. Yeah. No, that's all right. I don't like people sending me stuff because then again I have to send it back and there could be loads of taxes attached to everything and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So I only do it with people I know because, you know, we have to work out first if people are sending me stuff, if it's going to do taxes or whatever. Because it wasn't too long ago I bought something that ended up having like a shitload of taxes on that, you know, I didn't even realize at the time of buying that, you know, cost almost as much as the option. No, that's all right. Like I said, because of all doxing and shit like that, I don't accept gifts off people unless I know them. Again, it's just a standard operating thing because I don't have a PO box, I don't do it. And even then, with a PO box, you have to be careful in the UK because I know people even supposedly that have PO boxes, you know, that they advertise publicly. They've been sent stuff that's illegal to own in the UK, and then they've still had to go through all the you know, kind of crap of you know, like having to say, oh, who they think sent it them and all the stuff like that. So, yeah, you're on about rebreathers. The problem with a rebreather, if you don't know about this, is they work very well, but if water gets into the scrubber unit, because it's, you know, meant to be a self-contained system, a rebreather, it doesn't need outside air, basically. It converts or scrubs your carbon dioxide, you know, so you get the most oxygen back from it possible. But with most rebreathers, if water gets into them, they can explode. So I've heard the Soviet rebreathers referred to before as a human depth charge. You know, where you'd have it on you, and if you go in the water and sorry, Ivan in the factory didn't put an O-ring in quite properly, or that O-ring's deteriorated or whatever, and the water gets into the rebreather unit, you suddenly either die horribly of toxic gas inhalation from the rebreather cooking off, or you just literally explode. So yeah, I've only used a rebreather once, and that was on dry land, and that was with a brand new rebreather cartridge, just for the sake of doing a video. But rebreathers are one of those things that kind of make me go nope, 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 nope. And again, still getting some weird people coming on, so like I said, just getting rid of them as and when. When you say Ludlam Original, what sort of era? Because again, Ludlam was just one of the companies that made a load of stuff. Do you mean the one that's kind of like the big grey one that you can plug various probes in? That particular model, let's see if I can find a model name, like a Ludlam Model 5, for example, or the similar ones, I have never seen one for sale, or at least not at a good price. So again, a Ludlam Model 5 is essentially what that Victorine I bought does, but, you know, it's old, much older technology of that Ludlam Model 5. Yeah, so if I ever saw one really cheap, yes, I'd get one, but I've never even seen one, I don't think, for sale in the UK. Or if I have, they've been very expensive. Because, like I said, it's a bit like the Victorine, is it? 290 is the equivalent of that. Like the analog version of the 190 I've got. Again, they look like cool meters, but, you know, the problem is that because they're US meters and I'm not in the US, you tend to not get them over here. Like the Vic 190 I got came from Japan. It wasn't even one that... I mean, it depends. It depends all on the ranges and accuracy, what makes a Geiger counter better or not. And again, if that's one where you can swap the probes around, it's basically identical. Right, I'm going to have to get Rich's comment up on the big chat, because again, it's just too small on mobile. Rich said, remember the DIY rebreathing a diving channel showed? It was all clear plexiglass, so you could see what the scrub material was, and you know when it was out expired. Oh, that's cool. I know that there's been a couple of industrial filters, but sadly not very many that have been made with like clear plastic. Because like, yeah, it's just one of those things that most countries or companies don't seem to make. I know with, like, say, for example, on my Modern Avon filter, they put, like, a thing that changes colour on it in theory when the filter's expired. So it says, discard filter when blue, and then you're meant to look at the internal bit. So it's a bit like silica gel. Some of those turn blue to tell you when you're meant to bin them. But yeah, I guess they've got a little pad in there that basically once the filter's been saturated, that pad turns a different color, goes blue, to tell you, you know, your filters, you should get rid of that filter, it's no good anymore. Yeah, well, again, like this, the IP4, the IP4M I've got is definitely a land-based recycling one, because yeah, it's basically just one where you wear it as a satchel, and it's got a voice diaphragm on and everything. But yeah, the fact that you can, like, again, there are companies that make really good underwater rebreathers, but they're very expensive diving ones. Like I said, it's like with the old Soviet stuff, I just don't trust Soviet quality control as something that could kill you instantly. Mostly I've just got camo jackets and that. Like, the closest I've got to dress uniforms and that is just some of the East German stuff I've got, when it used to be really, really cheap a while ago, and it isn't anymore. Right, let's have a look at that, Rich, because at least on PC I can open the tab up. Vintage scuba. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm just clicking through it now, but yeah, so you could actually see the stuff inside that would change color. That is really cool. I'm gonna have to watch that video properly later, Rich. Anyway, I'll go back to the proper stream chat now. Yeah, I suppose if the rebreather exploded, you wouldn't be able to recover it. If you mean a really old, like, M9 copy, I've seen those, but I've never seen them in the UK. Again, there's a lot of countries that had like M9 clones and stuff like that, but again, it's like in the UK, you tend to either get US M9s or the ones from, like, you know, the European countries that had M9 clones, like I think it was Sweden, Finland, and Yugoslavia. I think there were more countries that had M9 clones in Europe. It's just they never obviously went in the surplus market in bigger numbers. But yeah, anyway, because we've got about 50 people on again, don't forget to like the stream if you're watching this and want to see my regular videos, because of the fact that, like I said, if you like it, you might actually get sent my videos if you're subbed. Although, saying that, the viewer count jumps pretty rapidly on this. It was 49 a second ago, now it's gone down to 30, and then it seems to jump up again quite quickly. So yeah, like I said, I guess some of this might just be it showing up, people are clicking on this thinking, what the hell is this, and then clicking off and on with it. So yeah, like I said, I don't have an M50. I had one years ago, actually, and I traded that for a night vision set. The M50 I got years ago was probably between 100 and 200 pounds. I have no idea now what I spent on that one, because it was like, you know, 5+ years ago I bought that. The C50, I think, was just over 200 pounds. But that was one that was unissued, you know, like, although it was a couple of years old, it was still with all its original factory stuff. The Finnish M9 clones, the M61, are actually better than the US M9, so you've got those. The Finnish ones are like a better quality rubber, better straps, you know, they're just more comfortable and better masks in every way. But they're still a bit obsolete. Like, you've got the one that is pretty cool is the Yugo or Serbian M2 and the M3 masks, because they're basically one, like the Serbian M3 is basically a 40mm miniaturized version of the Finnish M61 V3. So it's got a voice diaphragm built onto it as well, like an aftermarket voice diaphragm style thing. But it also takes 40mm filters, not 60. I've got an FMJ08 somewhere. I've got the MF14 that I showed earlier before me. I've got, yeah, most of the Chinese masks I've bought at various points I've still got. It's just they're not necessarily accessible. And again, when I'm doing a stream, I can't just easily go and get stuff, because this room is getting more and more filled with fucking surplus now, just simply because of the fact that at the moment, like I said, the next door room where loads of stuff used to be stored, that's having to have its entire roof and everything replaced. So we have to completely empty that room before, you know, the builders start on it. And then once that's done, a lot of stuff's going to go back in there. But when it goes back in there, it's going to be all like documented properly and put in, like, you know, storage crates and everything. Well, like actual AKM style AKs, when you say AK-47s, because generally very few people have AK-47s, the actual ones, because they were only made for a couple of years before the AKM became the mass-produced version of it. I've got an MSA. No, I've not got an MSA Millennium. I've got an MCU2P. And again, my one isn't very good because it leaks, but it is quite old. The Millennium, again, I think if you had it, you know, and it was in good condition, it'd be quite a good mask. I don't know if they improved the straps over the MCU2P, because the MCU had really bad straps, as in it was like really, really retro. You know, it was like really retro kind of style straps. Like the US, despite it being like the 90s or whatever, was still putting like 1950s style straps on their masks. So I'd hope the Millennium has better straps on it. But in terms of the mask, again, it's Millennium is basically just an updated MCU. Yeah, the white and grey Turkish S6 copies, I've seen them but never seen them for sale, sort of thing. As in, I've seen pictures of them but never, you know, had one. So that guy says, what you're thinking of is talc. So that doesn't form on old masks unless the rubber's deteriorating and you start seeing bits of the mask inside the mask, you know, where it starts falling apart. That's just where, for storage reasons or whatever, a lot of manufacturers, once they made the mask, just covered them in talcum powder. Probably about 60, 70 pounds hazmat suits. And that was one with, you know, again, that was one that was a few years old, but completely unissued, with its like really cheap, awful NBC suit in its carry bag with it, you know, exactly as Myra would sell it with less stuff, but £70. Again, the On90 isn't very good at all. Like I said, it's kind of like if you copied the S10 but did it as cheaply as possible. So like the lenses aren't the proper lenses and stuff like that. You know, it's got the cheese grater weird exhale valve cover on it. Cheap gas mask with a drinking tube. Can you get an FM12 for a good price? They've got drinking tubes on. But in general, it's only military masks that have drinking tubes. So again, it'd be what can you get in Korea that has a drinking tube? Because most civilian industry masks, sort of thing, don't have drinking tubes because they don't need them at all. Anyway, I'll be on a little bit longer. How long have I been on? Half an hour or so. But yeah, I was mostly doing the stream today to check that, you know, with the phone, not doing a game, just to check that this new phone works all right. Yeah, I need to have some lunch soon, actually. I'm getting fairly hungry now. Not had any breakfast today. I sort of, you know, got up, had a coffee and that, and then sort of immediately just started sorting stuff out. What? An S6 copy or the OM90? Nick, the replacement one I got for the Doogie, because like I said, the one I got recently was this Doogie. And as good as this is in terms of being built like a brick, the USB-C slot, like I was saying the other day on that, it was actually absolutely dog shit on this one. So I'm going to have to get this repaired by somebody I trust to do it, you know, not a phone shop, like I said before about people cloning your data. And, you know, solder on a new USB-C port, because... So the name of the phone I've got is... I think I put the box away in my drawer, unfortunately. Hang on. I'll just get the box out for it so you can see the box. Ulefone Armor 25T Pro. So again, it's one of these like Chinese brick phones. But, you know, again, it's... I've just, you know, went and got one that's fairly decent. It was £100 or so off. Again, like I said, because even when I bought more expensive Western phones recently, a lot of those, you know, the batteries are still going to be dead after about a year, or, you know, hold nowhere near as much charge, even if you're only charging to 80% and whatever. And a lot of these Chinese phones are actually built like bricks, which is what I like, because they're like, you know, they're the rugged phones or whatever. Like I said, my old Doogie is still fine. It's just a shame this one had a sloppy USB-C port on the bottom. So, you know, what happened is every time you plug in a USB-C cable and plug it out, it put more and more wear on the port until eventually, you know, some of the plastic connectors inside just sort of snapped off. So now, you know, you have to keep wiggling a cable in there to get it to charge, you know, and as soon as there's a bit of movement, it loses charge. Like I said, I'm going to have to get this one repaired, but I don't want to get it repaired by a phone shop because I'm paranoid, you know, if you go into a phone shop and do it, they'll harvest all your data off of it. I know that's probably a bit of a, you know, over kind of worry, but, you know, like I said, I'd rather pay a relative I know that's good at soldering and stuff like that to do it than, Cheap Geiger counters, there aren't very many. I mean, other than the Chinese ones. So if you go on AliExpress and you can find any Geiger counter for that price that will ship to Korea, then they might be all right. But again, the Chinese ones and like the very low end ones tend to be very low radiation ranges, as in background radiation to maybe 100 microsieverts. Some of them are a bit better, but then they go up in price quite quickly. But yeah, Geiger counters are the sort of thing that aren't cheap. You know, like the good, decent quality Geiger counters still, that aren't like Milsurp ones, tend to still be like £500 to £1,000 sort of price. You know, $500 to $1,000. No, Nick, unfortunately it is the port that's broken, because like I said, I've had bits of plastic fall out, like I said, and I've been very carefully, you know, going in there with a pick. And it's just a case of like where the central like little bit of the port, like the plastic, you know, that was around the pins was like really cheap, shitty plastic. Well, like I said, what I'm doing my current one anyway is this one has wireless charging anyway. So I know, again, like Hype was saying, that puts a bit more strain on the battery, but this one can be charged wirelessly if I want to charge it wirelessly. And what I've also ordered for this one, even though, like I said, the port seems much better quality on this one, is a couple of magnetic USB cables, the ones where you have a little tiny, like, male to magnetic USB thing that sits in the bottom of your phone. And then what happens is you have, like, a magnetic quick release cable that doesn't put strain on the port. But yeah, like I said, this one is literally going to require it to be resoldered on, you know, like a replacement USB-C port, because it is just where, like I said, it's had the problem of, you know, it didn't grip very well from the factory. And then rather than me thinking at the time, oh, should I ask for a replacement phone? I didn't. And then it's a case of, you know, like every time you put the cable in and out, it's just sort of eroded what's in the port, because, you know, the outer wall of the port's fine, but it's just obviously the plastic inside's fallen apart. Again, you're not really going to be able to see it on there, but if you look at that, if it focuses, you can probably see that that port is not in good condition. Samsungs are really expensive, and again, if they don't have a replaceable battery, they're still not a good phone, because of the fact that you buy a very expensive phone, and then after a few years, the battery is dead anyway. Until like mass manufacturers again start doing the old Nokia thing of letting you swap out batteries, I'm not going to spend a lot of money on a, you know, like £1,000 plus on a smartphone, because like I said, it's just, I've had so many phones that were very good phones over the years, but just after, you know, like a couple of years of, even if you're charging them carefully and then taking them off charge, the battery capacity gets so low they're not usable as a phone anymore. And again, even cheapish phones get better and better over time, you know, in terms of like, you know, like I was saying, like some of these Chinese phones, what you get in terms of value for money now isn't bad at all. So again, I don't need the latest greatest phone for a lot of the features. I don't care. I mostly use a phone just for very basic internet stuff, very basic filming stuff, and then use a gaming PC for regular stuff. You know, like I don't play games on my phone. I don't really give a shit about most of the processing speed on them, as long as it can have a couple of apps open at the same time and not crash or freeze. Don't care. One thing I'm also doing in this phone before I have work at the weekend is basically completely draining the battery on it. So I gave it a full charge to 100% last night from the 65% or whatever when it was in its box, you know, in factory mode. Oh, actually, look, I can hold you up the spec sheet for this phone, look, for the person asking. I think it was Nick, although if I put it against my hand, you might be able to read it, but that's actually... Tell you what, because my doogie doesn't power on at the moment, let's just stick that against there, and it might be readable. There you go, you can read it on my old phone. There's its specs. Yeah, they also like do a thing, don't they, where you need a heat gun and all that sort of shit, don't they, Nick? Yeah, where it like they've made it as hard as possible for basically the end user to do stuff. That's one of the few good things I will say about the EU, is the whole EU thing about how every company, you know, should basically, you know, always have the same type of connectors like USB-C. You know, there should be a right to repair. So It doesn't matter. It was just because Nick was quickly asking. But anyway, Armour 25T Pro. I'll just get a page up on it so people who want to have a look at it can have a proper look later. For some reason, there's one review on it now on Amazon, which is 1 star. So I'm going to actually read this 1 star review to see what the person was complaining about with their 1 star review. Terry says, horrible. Horrible and annoying to use. What a waste of money. It's ridiculous. You have to keep restarting the phone as you can't make it receive calls. Avoid Ulefone. So far, mine's worked fine with all the apps I've tried on it. So either Terry had a broken phone or Terry doesn't know how to use a phone, I would guess. But if I get you a spec site up anyway. Oh, thank you very much, Preparatus, if that's how your name's pronounced. Right, is that Swedish krona? I'm going to actually have to look up SEK, or is that Slovakian currency, or what's that? SEK currency. That is, oh, Swedish, yeah, Swedish krona. Oh, I guessed it right. I've never actually been to Sweden, funnily enough. I've been to Norway, which also had krona, I think it was. But yeah, that just means like crowns, doesn't it, essentially, on your currency. Yeah, I've got a Swedish AT4 over there, deactivated, sadly, although you only fire them once. But because of YouTube's policy, I can't show you a fucking launcher, annoyingly, on stream. And it's buried under a load of shit. But you can see my video on it normally. I'm trying to think of what other Swedish milsurp I've got. I've got a load of old Swedish gas masks and that. But yeah, I've always wanted like a Swedish Carl Gustav M45 SMG. Sadly, it'd have to be deactivated in the UK, but I've never seen them like for good prices. There's some Danish Madsen SMGs that sometimes turn up at good prices, or Madsen, whatever they're called. But yeah, but thank you anyway. I do appreciate it. At least it's an easy currency to convert if it's like one is like 10 pence. It's kind of decimalized. I suppose actually, because it says 1 Swedish krona equals 0.072 pounds sterling, it's probably 1 Swedish krona is probably very close to 10 US cents, which then makes it about 7 UK pence, because we always seem to be about 70p to $1 US. For whatever reason, pound sterling always seems to go to that. It goes up and down a bit. I don't have the VPU for the M50. No, sorry, C50. No, sadly, not much Australian military surplus. The closest to Aussie surplus I have, technically. Oh, the bayonet on my Lee Enfield is actually, I think it's Lithgow it was called, which is a Lithglow, something like that, Lithgrow, which is a Aussie, like, arms manufacturing one or whatever. So, I've got an Aussie bayonet on my #1 Mark III Lee Enfield. So, yeah, my Lee Enfield has an Aussie bayonet on it, even though it's not an Australian Lee Enfield. And I have no idea which country my Steyr AUG was issued to, because I've got a deactivated Steyr AUG, so that could have been Australia, but it could have been any of the other countries that bought, you know, the full auto, proper Steyr AUGs. So, yeah. But weirdly, not much Australian surplus, just because a lot of it doesn't seem to have a trickle back to the UK. I like the Aussie camo they used to have on their NBC suits with the Australian version of the S10. What was it? It's called the ADF 10, wasn't it? Australian Defence Forces 10. But let me have a look. Australia Camopedia. I want to know what the name of their cool camo is. Australian Destructive Camouflage Pattern, DCP, I think is the one I'm thinking of, which is basically kind of reminds me of old US World War II Duck Hunter style camo. I've always liked that camo because I think it looks good on their NBC suits when they have the S10s on. But, oh yeah, I was going to link, hang on. So this was for Nick. So yeah, basically my current phone I've bought is almost the same as this Doogee one, with a lot of the specs. A lot of the buttons are in the same place. It's probably almost the same Chinese factory that builds them, I imagine. A couple of the things are a bit different. So for example, this one has wireless charging, the other phone didn't, but this one also has a lower capacity battery. They're both very much similar weight and size. They've got like all the buttons in the same places on the case. They have the exact same like little tray for your SIM card and like micro SD. The thermal camera is a different brand and slightly lower resolution than the 2G one. But again, it's still a much lower resolution, my actual thermal scope. So, like, say, for example, where I've got this guide thermal, this TD420, this is higher res than what you're going to get on any of these phones anyway. You know, like with dedicated thermal devices, you always get a higher res thing. But the thermal still works on the thing. It's like I said, it's good enough because the thing I like with having thermals on the phone is just the novelty of being able to look at the temperatures of stuff. You know, and they often come in handy. Like, and again, they get used a lot more than my proper dedicated thermal gear, because that's generally because it's separate units. You have to remember to charge those up and take them out with you. Talking to people on the stream, instinct riddle, if that's what you're asking. What the gas mask I do like, if that's the one, preparatus, because it's like the Forshida or Forshader or something it's called, isn't it? Like F2A4 or whatever, the civilian version that we used to get in the UK at one point, and that's really nice quality rubber. Yeah, the main reason I wanted one again with wireless charging, Nick, is just like I said, just because of the fact that if the USB-C port gets completely fucked again, I can at least revive the phone using wireless charging. So if there was data on there I desperately needed to get off, I could at least do that, you know, even if the USB-C port gets completely fucked. Because, again, the weird thing is, going back 5 years ago or so, a couple of phones I had in a row, which were just mid-range phones, had wireless charging. And now the last, like, 3 phones I've had prior to this one haven't had it again. So it's one of those weird things where, All right, Hype. Yeah, the Eula phone's working well. I was laughing at a 1-star review on Amazon just now. The only review I could find of it. Oh, the other cool thing with this phone is I'm just going to double check that this isn't a thing I'm imagining. But, where is it? No, I'm not imagining it. It does say on the reviews, but this phone has a 3.5mm jack on it. So, yes, I can actually jack off with this phone, if you like. Yeah, I've got this light on, obviously, here, which improves the lighting quite significantly on here. But yeah, the colours on the screen look really good. It does look quite good saturation on it, and that's probably made the lighting worse now. But yeah, so like I was saying, it seems, like I was saying, the weird thing is, if I compare the case of this to the Doogie, it's basically an identical case size. Like I said, I'm almost surprised they're not made in the same factory, because the specs, like, some of the specs are like side grades to each other, but, you know, like the weight of the phone, the features. What's an IPS screen? Again, I don't know all the crap with phones. Display, IPS. It does go up to 120 hertz, which the Doogie didn't do. Because I've actually got it, I think, set to 90 hertz at the moment. Because I was like, oh, wow, the videos look a lot smoother. Oh, that's kind of interesting, yeah. But, yeah, just so you can see, Hype, if that's visible on there, how fucked the USB-C port is on there. Again, it's probably not going to focus very well. Can I manually focus that? Again, its front camera might not focus that close up, but... But yeah, like I said, it's the problem with this is the USB port is fucked. Like I said, I will go into it with a little pick again and check there is no debris causing an issue. But the main issue, like I said, is this wasn't a good port even to begin with. Like, you know, like I said, the USBs just didn't kind of feel secure in it. Well, is that what the Korean K3 gas mask? I like the look of that. It basically has the exact same front look, doesn't it, as the sort of C50 whatever, but with 2 eyepieces. Kind of looks like they did rip off the Avon style, but I do like the look of it. Again, like I say, sadly, the Korean stuff doesn't tend to turn up in the UK. You know, just a bit like Japanese stuff. Doesn't seem to leave. You have to be quite lucky to get on the surplus market. But yeah, one of the things I do like as well with these Chinese phones as well is they all seem to at least let you put micro SD cards in them, which seems to be, again, a dying thing on a lot of the Western phones, unless you go to the really high-end ones. Right, so I need to give that a charge again, because I did do a video on the CNNC Geiger counter this morning. And yeah, I think the problem with mine, Hype, is I think the battery is constantly discharging itself. So if I charge the battery on it and then do a video, it works absolutely fine. If I charge the battery and leave it unplugged and then, you know, go to do a video, the battery is nearly empty again. So that seems to be the annoying thing with mine. But anyway, when I tried it with a DP2 source, when I did have a bit of stuff in it, you know, a bit of power, the DP2 source would jam the GM tube on it, as in, like, from a certain distance it would work. The closer you got it, it would just go to, like, reading 0. I haven't tried it with X-rays yet. I mean, it's designed mostly as a gamma X-ray style dosimeter, isn't it? But yeah, the DP2 source about 1.7 Rontgen, or whatever my DP2 source is, just jammed out the tube in it. So it doesn't use one of those. It actually uses a GM tube in that, as opposed to like one of those semiconductor type detectors, which have probably been more suited. Yeah, that's probably exactly why. Like I said, I think there's probably a reason a lot of the Western countries still use these. You know, where you just have a replaceable battery. This one has one of those weird CR or whatever you call them, like coin batteries. But it's one of the lithium style ones in this one. It's like I said, the thing I like with my Thermo Fisher is it's just literally a AA that you can take in and take out through the side of it because it's fatter. But yeah, the thing I like with these is these ones never seem to jam either at like high radiation ranges. But again, these are designed to be very, very simple interfaces. You know, you literally have your current dose rate and your accumulated dose. What's that? DF battery. What does that mean? Defective battery? It's not a defective battery. I think it's just the contacts in there aren't quite secure, so now and again it resets. There you go. This I've given this one 0.560 millisieverts, according to that. Yeah, nuclear industry dosimeters are literally like pager ones. They're just designed that you wear them like that in a pocket. You know, you can look down and see your dose, and you know, they're very simple. They are good bits of equipment, but like I said, this is probably my least favorite out of all of them. I have to see if I can find another one of those other cheap ones. I have no idea where it is, my other like cheap one I had. Well, not cheap, you know, like where a company, like whether it was the British government or some sort of industry that used dosimeters, dumped a load on the surplus market a while ago. So they were like 5 years old. And they were the ones that I think they took a single AAA battery down like the side vertically. And they were pretty good because you could actually reset them without a password. Because the problem is with a lot of these type of ones is because they're designed for actual proper industrial use, you can't reset the dose on them. Because they're designed, you know, so they can actually see what workers have been exposed to. So you have the problem that you'd have to technically buy the software for them and the connectors to reset them, which aren't generally sold to the civilians. Because generally what they do is when they SERP these, they give them another data wipe and then they sell them. But obviously whatever doses you put on them after that aren't going to come off. Oh, I'm glad you find the channel interesting. But yeah, like I was saying, this kind of pager is, I imagine, what a lot of armies might start just mass issuing to stuff like troops at some point for dosimetry stuff. You know, like proper Geiger country style radiation measurements for actual like CRBN type troops. But for actual regular, you know, like troops, I imagine they might just give them digital dosimeters in the future that, you know, have like a year battery life or whatever. Because a lot of countries used to either do the pen dosimeters, which again I like, because you can look through them into the light and see what the dose is, or they do the ones which are the weird ones where I've got the reader for it back there. Actually, the British Army reader for those. That giant unit there is the big old reader unit for the British Army dosimeters. But again, they're such a faffy thing that you basically have like a pendant kind of thing that has some film in it, I think, that develops, or a crystal in it, and then you put it in the drawer and that, and it can read it. And part of the idea again, I think, is that the soldier doesn't know what radiation they've been exposed to. So CRBN now, so chemical, radiological, biological, nuclear, but basically NBC. Again, the radiological bit, I still don't really understand the differentiation between the radiological and the nuclear, because they're basically the same thing. It just means getting fried by radiation. Again, radiological, I suppose, could refer to X-rays being made from something that's not nuclear based, but for the sake of it, NBC, it's nuclear. I think of just NBC is easier to remember. I doubt it's better than the C50, but that's not too bad a price. But again, at the moment, I'm not in the budget really for buying any gas masks. What I was going to do though was just look at dosimeters and see if I could find the like pager style dosimeters, if there's any for sale. Cheap. But sadly, I don't think there's any at the moment. There's like a low-end SOX one, which is going to max out probably at 100 microsieverts at most. There's some of the Soviet, again, ones, the equivalent of the British ones, like the bit of crystalline that you have to use a specialized reader to read, and I don't think you can reset them. Chemical dosimeters, but yeah, I like the old pager. Let me just search radiation pager. And now the results are even less related to what I was looking at. But yeah, now and again you get those pager-style dosimeters. Let's just search nuclear dosimeters and like nuclear industry ones, because they're the sort of ones. But yeah, most of the ones coming up are just like little low-end Geiger counters. What if I search from price high to low? Highest price is £513.70, and it has no pictures. What a great listing. Next highest price is one that isn't a bad price for the item, but it's $148 shipping. Sorry, £148 shipping. The next type of thing, which is kind of the thing I'm on about, is an RG1100 electronic X-ray nuclear radiation dose detector, blah, blah, blah. Again, that looks quite nice, but again, that's quite a lot of money, and I don't know how good that detector is. Dose 0 microsieverts an hour to 10 sieverts. Okay, so it is pretty. Oh, sorry, no. The measurement range is 0.1 microsieverts an hour, so background, to 10 millisieverts an hour. So it maxes out at the point where it's not really very good, because in an actual nuclear thing it would overload. But yeah, I can't see any on eBay at the moment, unfortunately, that are if I set it to second hand only, yeah, let's set it to second hand only used. There's a really cool looking one for 600 quid, but I'm not going to spend that on one. Tracerco or something, PED blue personal electronic dosimeter meter, blah blah blah. I'm not going to buy this because it's really expensive, but I'm just going to get the picture up and link it in the chat of what it looks like. This is a really cool looking I mean, I like the display on this. I like the little VATS looking display that shows you how dead you are of radiation. I really like that. I really like that display on this, but I'm not spending 600 odd quid on that. Yeah, it's got stay time to reach a dose. Yeah, that's a really cool display. When you say looks like a ghost, what do you mean? The pH gas hood? If so, no, I don't even have any. Actually, I do know where that is, but it's not even in this room. One Geiger counter I still need to do a video on, I've not got round to yet, is this Chinese one, actually, that has this weird dual system for the probe, because every other one I've seen uses a single one of these BNT connectors. This uses two. I'll put it on beep mode because it's more fun. But yeah, this is actually quite a good sensitive probe on this one, so I do kind of like this, because it's like like that little Kajo one I had where it had a GM tube in there like that, but this one's very sensitive because it's got a giant fuck off big probe. I was trying to work out what, without, you know, ripping this apart, which Chinese probe's in this, and I think I figured it which out. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was one you could buy on AliExpress that was like a foot long tube, so I guess it's that one, just, you know, with then a bit more housing around it. But I think what they've done weirdly with this, again, the mannequin, yeah, like somebody's saying, but I can't change the mask on the mannequin easily, can I? That's what I'm saying. This only works though if you plug both in. I kind of get the weird feeling with this hype. Again, I wouldn't know until I open it up and look, which I don't really want to do. But I actually get the weird feeling what they've done is that with these BNC connectors, only the male positive bit is the bit that actually has any conductivity going through it. So I think how it works is where this used to have just like a positive and negative, you know, GM tube across it like that on the older model. I think what they've done is just the positive has that one connected to it, the negative has that one, so it's like flowing through one tube. I think that's how it works. Because if I try and plug this probe into my other meters of BNC connectors, they won't read off of it. And again, with this one, if you plug a probe in that uses a single BNC connector, it won't read off of it. So I think all they've done is they've made that the positive wire, that the negative wire, and then it's just circumventing the regular GM circuitry. I think they've just done that as like a cheap, easy workaround, if that makes sense. Again, if I cut this apart, which I don't particularly want to do because it works at the moment, I could figure that out. But yeah, it might be that you have to have both in parallel for it to work. I don't know. The Chinese guide counters like this, if you get the one that just has the internal GM tube in it, they are only about, there we go, it's back to background radiation again, 0.2 microsieverts, it's pretty accurate. But yeah, in terms of, what was I going to say? If you get the one with this really big GM tube with it, they're about £60. I think if you get the normal Kajo ones, they still make them, they're about £30–40 of like the little internal GM tube. For most people, they're probably better, the one that just has the little internal GM tube there, because that way, you know, you've got a little pocket-sized units. But the Kajo ones aren't the best of the Chinese Geiger counters. They have a few more functions, but like I said, there's a couple of Chinese Geiger counters I've reviewed that are actually really good, decent quality Geiger counters. Let me look up the name of the really good branded Chinese ones that aren't the like military ones, just the ones you can get on AliExpress. They're probably in my shorts rather than oh, I have to search there, don't I? Because of YouTube's stupid interface. Right, while it loads up. The Habo test one is all right. There isn't. I'm not thinking the Habo test one off the top of my head, but the Habo test one's pretty good for what it is. Again, YouTube search function is appalling and doesn't work. Let me just search YouTube videos in general and then see if I can find my videos from it. Chinese Geiger counter, enter. So the BR9Bs and that are all right, but don't go very high. The HFS10, I think, did Hype send you on those, or did I manage to buy one of those separately? I can't remember. The HFS10 is the one that was actually really genuinely good. There's, again, some Chinese Geiger counters that look like little pendosimeter units. They're pretty good. Sorry, not pendosimeter units, but look like, you know, just kind of like little USB sticks, like little rectangle. They're very basic, but yeah, I think out of the Chinese ones you can get easily, the HFS10 is probably the best one, as in, you know, it's pretty hard to jam out. It has a decent range on it. Oh, the GM100A is good as well. So yeah, the GM100A is good, and the yeah, the other one I just read out the name of. There was another one that's like a orange brick one I've got, which is actually pretty good. The HMS 10 is good. But yeah, again, we've got another weirdo come on. You left a big gap before your last lot of friends. At one point, you were spamming the chat every minute. Yeah, £44 is actually quite a good price for an S10. But again, if it's a bid, it might go higher than that. And I've got enough S10s. Don't need any more. I'm just gonna actually look up this Tracer Code brand of things just to see if I'm going to bookmark their site and then at some point try and hope that I see a load of their stuff get sold off cheaply, because I like that little weird VATS looking interface on it. What's the specs on it? I'm just reading the specs. It goes up to 1 sievert an hour, so it tells you if you're getting over 100 Rontgen per hour. I suppose that's good to know. But yeah, it seems like it's probably quite a good scimitar. I just really like that little visual screen on it. Yeah, I like that one you sent me before, you know, the one that's like the green brick. Not the Type 75. I do really like the Type 75, but that's only really good for X-rays and stuff like that. But the one with like a little red digital alarm clock screen, because that still works absolutely fine. The only annoying thing was I accidentally broke the speaker on that one, as you know, because there was no way of turning the alarm off. And after, like, you know, messing about with the alarm too much, I think I punctured the piezo speaker in it. Oh, well. But yeah, like I said, the thing is with Geiger counters and that is you want something like, just say, a Radia code, which isn't even a Geiger counter, or something like that for most radiation ranges. Then when you get to high radiation ranges, you actually just want an ionization chamber, because they're a lot more accurate than Geiger counters when you get to the, you know, your super doomed levels of radiation. Again, like I said, at the moment, I don't want any new masks or anything until we've had all the work done in our house. Because at the moment, we've got the problem of, like I was saying, that this room is an absolute fucking mess more than usual. Every other room in the house is, because the room we normally use to store stuff is the one with the leaking roof. So in order to have the roof repaired, that room has to be, you know, we've already thrown so much stuff away out of that room, but other stuff's had to go into storage elsewhere. So I'm literally avoiding buying stuff at the moment at all, basically, unless it's something I actually need, you know, like the phone, for example. Just simply because of the fact that with that room, you know, that needs to be fully cleared out. So we need to be getting rid of stuff here, not buying stuff. Yeah, anyway, good to see everybody on. I'll probably head off now. Don't forget to like the stream, and thank you for the guy that donated. I do appreciate that. So yeah, like I was saying, this phone actually seems all right. Yeah, thank you. Glad you enjoyed it. Tomorrow, I don't know if I'll do a stream using this or do a stream on Red Dead Undead Nightmare again. But yeah, so anyway, until this one breaks, this phone seems good. Again, that Doogie phone is really good. It's just a shame it came with such a bad quality USB-C port, because I think that's the first phone I've had where, you know, like within a couple of months of having it, the USB-C ports were worn out. I've had others that after like 2 years of use, you know, eventually sort of fall apart. But that one was just super cheapo, horrible plastic. But anyway, this has wireless charging, and I bought the expensive, nice magnetic chargers for this one as well, so I can charge it without putting stress on the parts. Anyway, have a good day, everybody. Don't forget to like the stream on your way out, and I've got a video coming on tomorrow and Saturday at the moment, and I might get even more videos filmed just to upload, just some like little short ones. But yeah, have a good day, everybody. See you all. See you hopefully